Chosen one, something happened last night that you still have not fully understood. You may not remember a dream. You may not have heard a voice. Nothing dramatic may have appeared around you. But when you opened your eyes this morning, something about the life you have been tolerating felt different. A conversation returned to your mind. A decision refused to stay buried. A familiar routine suddenly felt too small. You may have reached for your phone in the dark, looked at the time, and wondered why one old thought was standing there again. Your body was tired, but something inside you was awake. Do not invent a supernatural story where there is none. Not every restless night is a message. Not every dream is a prophecy. But do not dismiss what you felt only because it arrived quietly. Some changes enter without thunder, and they become visible through the things you can no longer ignore. This is what I call the midnight threshold. It is the moment when the noise lowers just enough for a buried truth to rise. The defenses soften, the distractions fade, and the part of you that has been whispering for months finally becomes difficult to silence. Heaven saw this threshold before you reached it. It saw the intelligence you began doubting. It saw the creativity that survival pushed into silence. It saw every moment you asked for another sign while struggling to recognize the guidance already near you. And heaven has not been waiting to decide whether you are worthy. That decision was never the issue. It has been waiting for you to realize that the gift never left. The signal was never the problem. The receiver became clouded. That is why you can feel change coming but cannot name it. You know you are meant for more. Yet one clear step can still feel distant. But what became clouded may not be permanently lost. Later, you will hear what researchers discovered about the way the human mind connects information, why many adults lose access to abilities they once used naturally, and what may help support that connection again. First, you need to understand what really happened last night. It was not necessarily the night when something new was sent. It may have been the night when you could no longer keep pretending that you did not hear what was already there. If something felt different this morning, write, "I noticed." Do not write it to prove a miracle. Write it to mark the moment you stop denying what your own life has been showing you. Now hold one question. Why would heaven wait for you to realize something it already knew? The answer begins with a truth that may unsettle you. What heaven saw in you was not merely sensitivity. It was not only kindness. It was not only faith. It was a form of intelligence that could recognize patterns, connect meaning, and turn inner knowing into movement. And that is why this matters. Last night was not when heaven finally chose you. It was when the part of you that has always known began refusing to remain asleep. Chosen one, what heaven saw was not proof that you are better than everyone else. It was not a promise that hardship would avoid you. It was not permission to treat every desire as prophecy. What heaven saw was quieter, deeper, and far more useful. You notice patterns other people miss. You feel shifts before they become obvious. You can enter a room and sense tension before anyone speaks. You can hear one sentence and understand the pain hidden behind it. You can connect experiences, memories, and possibilities in ways that create meaning. But this gift can become painful when your mind is overloaded. You may sense that something is wrong, but struggle to explain it. You may know that a change is needed, but remain frozen. You may receive an idea that feels important, then lose it beneath errands, messages, responsibilities, and fear. This is the heaven-mind gap. It is the distance between what you feel called to become and what your current mental state allows you to carry into action. The calling remains, the capacity remains, but the bridge between recognition and movement becomes weak. Think about the job you know is draining you. You have prayed for direction. You have listed every reason to stay. You have imagined leaving. Still, your thoughts circle the same ground. The problem may not be a lack of guidance. The problem may be that exhaustion keeps turning clear signals into endless analysis. This is why heaven can feel silent even when the signal remains. Silence is not always the absence of guidance. Sometimes it is the experience of receiving through a clouded system. You do not need 10 more signs. You need enough clarity to recognize the one already present. You do not need another wave of pressure. You need a mind that can hold an insight long enough to examine it, trust it, and turn it into one responsible action. Right, the signal remains. Let those words mark a change in your interpretation. Difficulty receiving does not mean you have been abandoned. Confusion does not prove the calling expired. Fog does not erase the light behind it. A group of researchers, guided by discoveries in neuroscience, spent years examining what happens when parts of the brain that often work separately begin coordinating more effectively. Their work points toward a practical explanation for something spiritually sensitive people have felt for years. They began asking what changes when analysis, imagination, memory, and intuition stop competing for control. They explored what happens when the mind becomes more integrated, and what they found may explain why a person can be intelligent, faithful, and deeply aware, yet still feel unable to move. You will hear more about that discovery soon, but keep this question close. What if the fog is not your personality? What if the slow thinking, scattered focus, and lost creativity are not the final version of you? Heaven may not be withholding direction. The signal may already be arriving. The deeper question is whether the receiver can recognize it without distortion. It also changes how you see yourself. You stop calling yourself lazy when your system is exhausted. You stop calling yourself foolish when your attention is fragmented. You stop treating confusion as a spiritual verdict. The first breakthrough is simple. Heaven is not necessarily silent. Your receiver may be overwhelmed. And once you understand that, you can stop blaming your worth and begin supporting your clarity. But to understand why the receiver became clouded, you must return to the version of you that existed before the fog. Chosen one. Before the fog, there was another version of you. You learned by touching, watching, asking, and imagining. A simple object could become a machine, a kingdom, or a doorway. You did not need permission to create. Curiosity moved through you without shame. This is the childhood genius imprint. It is the trace of a mind that once connected information freely before pressure taught it to narrow its attention. That imprint did not disappear when you grew older. Access became less consistent. Layer by layer, life covered it. School rewarded certain answers. Adults praised obedience more than curiosity. Responsibility replaced play. Stress trained you to scan for problems. Lack of sleep weakened your focus. Constant information pulled your attention in 10 directions. None of this means adulthood destroyed your gift. It means survival demanded a different use of your energy. When the mind is busy protecting, managing, and reacting, it has less space for deep connection, creative insight, and quiet discernment. This is why you may remember being sharper when you were younger. Words came faster, ideas stayed longer, learning felt exciting. Now, you may open your phone and forget why. You may lose a word in the middle of a sentence. You may feel pressure behind your eyes while your thoughts race without arriving anywhere. But listen carefully. Access is not identity. A closed door does not mean the room vanished. A weak signal does not mean the source disappeared. And a tired mind does not prove that intelligence is gone. It may mean the conditions that once supported your natural ability are no longer present. This is the third breakthrough. You did not necessarily lose your intelligence. You may be struggling to access it. That distinction changes everything, because what is lost feels final, while what is blocked invites restoration. Replace one sentence today. Stop saying, "I am getting stupid." Say, "My access needs support." The first sentence becomes a sentence of defeat. The second becomes a practical question. What would help the mind become steadier, clearer, and more connected. Now return to last night. Maybe you remember no dream. Maybe nothing unusual happened. That does not erase the value of the moment. A threshold can appear as a simple refusal to continue living beneath your capacity. You may have awakened, tired of postponing one decision. You may have felt grief for the person you stopped becoming. You may have noticed that an acceptable life no longer feels honest. This discomfort is not proof of prophecy, but it can be evidence that denial is weakening. Last night was not necessarily a supernatural event. It may have been a moment of internal honesty. The old explanation that this fog is simply who you are began losing its authority. And once that explanation weakens, another possibility can enter. Imagine a morning when one important idea stays with you. You hear it clearly, you write it down, you complete one task before distraction takes over. Nothing magical falls from the sky, but the day feels different because your attention finally serves your intention. The question now becomes more precise. Why do children often move between imagination, intuition, observation, and learning so naturally, while many adults feel divided inside their own minds? That is why affirmations can feel inspiring without changing behavior. That is why prayer can bring comfort without producing a decision. That is why a powerful idea can disappear before becoming a plan. Information arrives, but integration does not follow. If this brings relief, let it settle. The version of you that learned quickly and imagined freely is not standing in the past, asking you to become young again. It is reminding you that your mind once knew how to connect, and the fog is only half the explanation. The deeper problem is that you were taught to divide two forms of intelligence that were designed to work together. Chosen one. The next truth may explain why you have felt divided inside yourself. You were taught to trust logic and question intuition, but your mind was never designed to live in that conflict. Logic and intuition are not enemies. Planning and imagination are not enemies. Faith and responsible action are not enemies. They become powerful when they cooperate, because one side can recognize a possibility, while the other tests it, shapes it, and turns it into movement. You have probably felt the cost of separation. Your intuition says a season is over. Your logic produces 30 reasons to stay. Your mind recognizes an opportunity. Your nervous system reacts as if every new step is dangerous. So you remain between knowing and doing. This does not mean one side of your brain is good and the other is bad. The brain is more complex than that. Different brain regions support attention, memory, imagination, emotion, and decision-making, and strong results often depend on coordination. This is what I call the integrated mind. It is not a mind without doubt. It can receive an impression, examine the evidence, consider the risk, and still choose a clear next step. For years, you may have treated spirituality and clear thinking as separate paths. You prayed for direction, then distrusted every answer. You felt an inner warning, then analyzed it until the signal disappeared. You received an idea, then waited for perfect certainty before acting. Clarity does not replace faith. It helps faith become responsible action. The goal is not to become less sensitive. The goal is to become more capable of carrying what you sense. This also changes the meaning of heaven waiting. Heaven is not sitting above you, delaying your future for no reason. The delay may be the time required for you to support the condition of the receiver. You do not have to accept this immediately. Test it against your own experience. When you are rested, calm, and focused, do decisions become easier? When your mind is scattered, does every option feel equally confusing? Right, my mind can reconnect. Let that sentence interrupt the belief that fragmentation is permanent. You are declaring that your present state does not have the final word. There is another important distinction. Integration is not the same as forcing concentration. You cannot shame a tired mind into becoming clear. You cannot threaten yourself into creativity. Pressure may create temporary motion, but it rarely creates the quiet coordination needed for insight. That is why more effort has not always produced more direction. You pushed harder. You consumed more information. You added more practices. Yet the deeper confusion remained, because the problem was not only what you knew. The problem was how your mind was holding it. Now the question becomes practical. Is there a way to support this coordination without years of training? Is there a method that does not demand expensive equipment, another exhausting routine, or a level of discipline you cannot sustain? The answer begins with research into what happens when the brain becomes more synchronized. It also begins with a discovery about why the abilities that once felt natural in childhood can become difficult to access later. And before that answer is revealed, remember this. The gift is not asking you to abandon reason. Reason is not asking you to abandon the gift. They were designed to work together. Chosen one. Now you can see why knowing has not always created movement. You have learned, prayed, reflected, forgiven, and started again. Yet parts of your life still look untouched by what you understand. Information is not integration. You can know the right answer and still feel unable to choose it. You can understand your pattern and still repeat it. This happens when knowledge never reaches stable attention. It happens when every insight is challenged by anxiety. It happens when one clear idea enters a mind already crowded with warnings, unfinished tasks, old memories, and constant noise. You may have blamed your discipline. You may have questioned your faith. But hesitation is not always rebellion. Sometimes it is what happens when too many internal systems are competing at once. Think of the books you finished. Think of the videos you saved. The value was real, but relief did not become a plan, and the plan did not become a repeated action. That is why another piece of information cannot solve the whole problem. The mind must be able to hold what it receives. This is the WHY. Your calling may still be present, but your mind may struggle to remain integrated long enough to recognize it and respond. This is the what. You may need support for coordination, not another temporary burst of stimulation. This is the WHO. This matters most for the person who once felt sharp, creative, and sensitive, but now lives with fog, delay, scattered focus, or distance from their own inner knowing. Earlier, I mentioned researchers who examined what happens when parts of the brain begin working together more effectively. That matters because you now understand the problem. The problem is not simply low motivation. It is not simply a lack of spiritual practice. It is the gap between receiving information and integrating it well enough to create movement. Imagine pouring clean water into a damaged container. The water is not the problem, but the container cannot hold what it receives. You may recognize this pattern in small moments. You open a notebook with a strong intention, then stare at the page. You begin one task, then jump to another. By evening, you feel busy but unchanged. The problem is not always effort. Sometimes the effort is scattered before it can gather enough force. This is why you may feel inspired at night and defeated by morning. The insight was sincere, but the mental state that received it could not preserve it through the pressure of the next day. You do not need to condemn yourself for that. Condemnation adds more noise. You need a practical bridge between awareness and action. And this is where the story turns. Understanding the clouded receiver is not enough. Even recognizing the childhood genius imprint is not enough, because awareness alone does not create restoration. The next question is the one that matters. Can the mind be supported in a simple way? Can coordination be encouraged without years of training or costly equipment? The researchers believed the answer was yes. Their work led toward an approach designed to support synchronization, not through force, but through a short listening process that could fit into an ordinary day. In the next part, you will hear what they built. You will hear why the process takes only 8 minutes. But listen closely before that reveal. A method is valuable only when its mechanism and promises remain honest. You are not looking for magic. You are looking for support. You are not trying to escape responsibility. You are trying to create the internal conditions that make responsible action easier to sustain. The mystery from the beginning is about to close. Heaven did not withhold the gift. The gift remained present while access became clouded. Now, the final practical question is whether that access can be supported again. Chosen one. The practical bridge begins with a scientific question. What happens when the brain coordinates information more effectively? Dr. Roger Sperry became known for research involving communication between the two hemispheres of the brain. His work was connected with a Nobel Prize and advanced understanding of brain function. The lesson is not that one hemisphere owns logic and the other owns creativity. The brain is far more complex. The useful point is that coordination matters. Attention, memory, imagination, emotion, and decision-making all benefit from coordination. The product materials also reference research suggesting that very young children often display unusually high creative capacity, while only a small percentage of adults retain the same level. That does not diagnose you, but it may help explain why childhood ability can feel distant. One woman from California described that distance clearly. She was a nurse who felt life was happening to her. She had tried meditation, manifestation practices, and different audio programs. According to her account, after about 10 days, she felt an invisible layer of tension begin to release. She also reported feeling more present in her marriage. That was her experience, not a guaranteed result or a substitute for medical care. A business owner from Texas shared a similar pattern. He had 2 children and had lived with fog so long that it felt normal. He prayed, but he said the experience often felt like speaking into a wall. According to his report, after about 2 weeks, his mind felt more fully available. Again, results can differ, and no honest product should promise identical outcomes. The tool created around this idea is called the Genius Switch. It is associated with Dr. Daniel Barone, a neurologist in New York City. It uses neural sync technology designed to support synchronization and whole brain activation. The format is simple. It is a digital audio session lasting 8 minutes. You use headphones, close your eyes, relax, and listen once each day. There is no meditation technique to master, no mantra to repeat, and no journal required. This is also how the product distinguishes itself. It is not presented as a standard brainwave track. It is not described as a binaural beat program. It is not a meditation application. Its stated focus is hemisphere synchronization through its own audio process. That difference does not prove it will work, but the mechanism should be judged on its own terms. If other audio programs disappointed you, review the official explanation before assuming every tool is identical. The Genius Switch is not for someone seeking a miracle that replaces action. It is better suited to someone who wants a simple daily practice and will connect clarity with responsible action. The offer described in the product materials includes lifetime digital access. The materials say colleagues valued it near $500. The listed price was $49, while the current offer is $39. $39 is still real money. It is digital, with no shipping cost, and access is sent by email. The materials say the price may increase, but there is no countdown or disappearing stock. The real urgency is the cost of continuing to make important choices from the same fog. The offer also includes 4 bonuses. The first is a guided visualization for money, love, health, and happiness. The second is a grocery guide covering foods linked with brain fog concerns. The third bonus is a classic manifestation book written more than 100 years ago. The fourth is a printable infographic featuring 5 daily habits. According to the product information, the purchase is protected by a 100% money-back guarantee. The materials say a refund can be requested even after repeated use. A guarantee reduces financial risk. It does not prove a guaranteed result. That distinction matters because trust should come from clear terms, not exaggerated promises. In plain language, the process takes 8 minutes, includes lifetime access, and comes with 4 bonuses. The guarantee is intended to make the decision easier to test, without treating the purchase as an irreversible leap. If it fits your situation, review the official page through the description or pinned comment. Confirm that you are on the official page and avoid unofficial copies. Then make a calm decision. Ask whether 8 minutes a day is a reasonable experiment for this season. Do not buy it to prove your faith. Do not buy it because fear says your opportunity will vanish tonight. Buy only if the mechanism makes sense, the cost fits, and you will use it consistently. The tool cannot create your calling. It cannot make decisions for you. It can only support conditions that may make clearer thinking easier. And this is where the message returns to you. The product is not the destination. Clarity is not the destination either. The destination is what you do when one idea becomes clearer and one next step becomes possible. You were never asked to worship the bridge. You were asked to cross it. Chosen one, imagine tomorrow morning beginning without a dramatic sign. You place the headphones on. You listen for 8 minutes. Then you open your eyes and choose one important task before the noise of the day begins. Nothing has to feel supernatural. You may simply notice that one idea stays with you longer, one decision feels less tangled, one conversation becomes easier to face because your attention is no longer being pulled in 10 directions. Real change often begins this quietly. It may appear as a clearer sentence in your mind. It may appear as the courage to write one email, make one call, or finish one page. Small movement matters because a calling becomes real through repeated action. You may also notice changes in how you work. A useful idea may remain present long enough to become a plan. This does not guarantee money or success, but clarity can reveal opportunities that confusion once hid. The same principle can reach your relationships. When the mind is overloaded, every question can feel like pressure. Every silence can feel like rejection. But when attention becomes steadier, you may listen without preparing a defense, and you may respond from presence instead of exhaustion. This is where the receiver matters. A clearer receiver does not create truth. It helps you recognize what is already true. It does not manufacture love. It helps you notice where love requires honesty, patience, boundaries, or repair. Your calling also becomes more practical. It stops being only a feeling that follows you through the night. It becomes a date on the calendar. It becomes a draft. It becomes a conversation. It becomes one step that another person can see. Manifestation is not passive waiting. It is recognition joined with action. It is the ability to see a possibility, test it wisely, and move toward it with consistency. Faith can open the door, but your feet still have to cross the room. Do not demand a perfect transformation on the first day. You do not need to feel like a genius. You do not need fireworks, visions, or instant certainty. Look for useful changes that can be repeated. Perhaps you remember a name more easily. Perhaps you remain focused for 10 minutes longer. Perhaps you catch yourself before an old reaction takes control. These changes can redirect a life. And remember, no tool can replace sleep, medical care, wise counsel, or personal responsibility. The goal is not dependence. The goal is greater access to your own capacity. The bridge mentioned earlier is still available through the description and pinned comment. This is the final reminder. Review it calmly, read the terms, and decide whether the practice fits your needs and your budget. Then return your attention to the larger truth. The most important moment will not be the purchase. It will be the moment when clarity becomes a choice, and that choice becomes a repeated action. Right. Clarity becomes action. Let those words mark the end of passive waiting. You are not promising instant results. You are choosing to meet clearer awareness with a responsible next step. Picture the person you may become through many ordinary mornings. You wake without immediately surrendering your attention. You recognize the task that matters. You complete it before fear creates another delay. Over time, those moments form a different life. One honest conversation repairs trust. One completed idea opens a new direction. One clear boundary protects your energy. One repeated practice reminds you that your mind can serve your purpose again. This brings us back to the final question. Why would heaven wait for you to realize the gift instead of simply removing every layer of fog? Because the answer was never only about feeling better. It was about reclaiming ownership of what you do with the light when you can finally see it. Chosen one, heaven did not wait because you were unworthy. It did not delay because your prayers were ignored. The waiting was part of a realization that no one else could complete for you. You had to see that the fog was not your identity. You had to recognize that confusion was a condition, not a verdict. If every layer disappeared without awareness, you might still give your power to the next fear that claimed to define you. The realization had to become yours. What heaven saw was not a perfect person. It saw an intelligence capable of connecting wisdom, imagination, discernment, and action. It saw a mind that could recognize meaning and turn inner knowing into responsible movement. That ability was pressured. It was covered. At times, it was difficult to access, but it was not erased. This is what happened last night. You crossed a quiet threshold. The identity that called you slow, lost, or permanently blocked began losing its authority. Something inside you stopped agreeing with that belief. Not everyone listening experienced the same night. Some slept peacefully. Some remember nothing unusual. This message is not proof of a supernatural event. Still, examine the change. What feels harder to tolerate now? What truth keeps returning? What step has become too clear to postpone? Heaven saw the integrated intelligence beneath the fog. Heaven waited because recognition had to become ownership. And last night mattered because the smaller identity began releasing its claim over your future. No video can live this truth for you. No audio can replace medical care, rest, or responsible action. Tools can support conditions, but your choices still matter. Now, release the belief that mental fog is your deepest nature. Release the shame attached to every forgotten word. Release the story that says your best ideas and decisions are already behind you. You are only asked to stop calling the covering the gift itself. The gift remains. Right, the gift remains. Let it be a declaration, not a performance. You are acknowledging that the capacity beneath the pressure still deserves a chance to become visible. Tomorrow does not need to change everything. One clearer morning is enough to begin. One honest decision can interrupt an old pattern. One completed action can prove that waiting has become movement. And when doubt returns, remember the three answers. What did heaven see? It saw an intelligence that could connect what others kept separate. Why did heaven wait? Because no one could reclaim that intelligence on your behalf. What happened last night? The identity built around the fog began to break. Share this with the person who once created freely, but now fears they have become slower. Send it to someone who prays but feels no connection, or someone who cannot yet see the next step. May your mind find rest. May truth become easier to recognize. May the next step appear without fear, making it smaller. You were not forgotten. You were not emptied of the gift. What heaven saw has been there all along. Now may you finally see it too.